Hello YouTube, and welcome to a new feature for the channel, where I'll be taking an in-depth look at some of what I consider to be the greatest levels in computer games, and what makes them so memorable. This is all subjective, of course. I don't claim to be any great authority, so if by the end of the video you don't agree with me, leave a comment and let me know what you think, or tell me what your favourite moments in games are. I'm going to kick things off with the most thrilling part of what is probably the best military shooter single-player campaign, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. This is all Ghillied up. It starts so simply. You see an empty field before you and hear a man's voice talking to you.
Too much radiation. We'll have to go around.
At first you assume he's just off screen, but then a clump of vegetation stands up, revealing that he was actually right in front of you.
Follow me.
It's a startling moment that achieves several things at once. It sets the tone for the whole level, letting you know that this is going to be quite a different experience from the high-intensity shooting gallery of the previous missions. It's clear the two of you are alone in a hostile environment. As such, you are vulnerable, but also incredibly hard to spot when lying prostrate, even when you're right next to somebody. The opening scene clearly demonstrates the power of the ghillie suits that you and your commander are wearing to make you nigh on invisible. This is an important piece of foreshadowing, as it makes what happens later in the level both believable and unbelievably tense. And it all comes from just watching a man stand up. As an introduction to a stealth mission, the first true example in the Call of Duty series, it's as good as it gets. The level progresses with your commander taking the lead and advising you what to do and what not to do. You're told to avoid pockets of radiation. That is, stray too far from the beaten path and you'll die. Clearly these pockets of radiation are invisible walls in all but name, although they do help reinforce the idea that this is a very unforgiving place that you're in, so hostile that even the environment itself will kill you.
Are you daft? Stay out of the radioactive areas.
A bit more elegant than an invisible wall then, but still, so far, so linear. Stealth games are all about choice and agency. If you think of other classics of the genre, like Thief, Deus Ex, and Dishonored, stealth games tend to present you with a large environment, give you a goal, and then allow you to develop your own strategies. At first, all Ghillied Up appears to be just as prescriptive as all the other levels in Call of Duty games. And certainly it is linear, in that you have to go a certain route and you can't deviate too far from it. But within that route, there are a lot more options than you might expect. Your commander, Macmillan, gives you instructions that usually involve staying hidden, but you can choose to ignore them and engage the enemy head-on. This certainly makes things more difficult. Macmillan is the commander for a reason after all, but it doesn't mean game over as long as both of you survive. This does give you the freedom to improvise. Macmillan will back you up if you choose to get into a firefight, although he might scold you afterwards.
Won't get very far trying to shoot our way out of every situation. Move up.
Later, he presents you with a choice. Leave a guard to walk past you, or take him out silently. The quickest option is to just snipe him from a distance, although you can also let him get close and use a pistol, or get even closer and use a knife. Or you could have just let him go. The key point here is that you have total control over what happens, and it is this agency that makes you feel like a badass instead of just a player going through a series of scripted events. You can even choose to engage and take down a helicopter gunship that flies overhead if you want to. There's no need to do so, the chopper doesn't attack you. It's there for dramatic effect rather than gameplay. But the church building you just went through contains a stash of Stinger missiles, so you can choose to make it part of the gameplay if you want.
Stay in the shadows.
Now compare these encounters to this particular moment in the Battlefield 3 campaign.
Use your blade.
Blackbird, no!
This isn't a bug as such, because bugs are unintentional. Battlefield 3's campaign actually seems to have been programmed this way. For some reason, the game does not allow you to approach your target while crouching down. You have to do so standing up, or it causes this to happen. Not only is this counterintuitive, since stealth games have for years conditioned us to approach targets while crouched, it's also incredibly restrictive and frankly obnoxious. Like some horribly entitled little shit child, Battlefield 3 tells us, "You're doing it wrong! You have to play this my way or not at all, so yeah!" Well, fuck you, Battlefield 3! You oppressive cockweasel! In comparison, All Ghillied Up tells us, "Oh really? You want to shoot down the helicopter? Well then go ahead and shoot it the fuck down! Yeah!"
Alright, now you're just showing off. Let's go.
So, although the level itself is linear, how you progress through it is up to you. And for a player, this is empowering. This level of interactivity was not easily achieved, which makes it even more remarkable that it was mostly the work of one man, Mohammed Alavi. After giving up a career in the medical profession to pursue games, Alavi was employed as a level designer by Infinity Ward around the time they were producing Call of Duty 2. All Ghillied Up is his creation. In a recent interview with PC Gamer, Alavi said, "To feel right, the AI needed to be programmed with every possible thing the player could do, and double that for Macmillan. Which meant it took me 3 months and over 10,000 lines of code to do the first minute of gameplay for All Ghillied Up. Steve Fukuda sat down at my desk to play the first minute, and he replayed it for half an hour, 10 different ways, and had fun each time. For me, that was a real success." All Ghillied Up marks the first time that Call of Duty's enemies displayed behaviour normally associated with stealth games. They had to act like they would in a stealth game, whilst also retaining their aggressiveness and tactics if you choose to pick a fight. Nowhere is this better demonstrated than in the section that immediately follows on from the church and the helicopter. You start crossing a field, and suddenly Macmillan shouts at you to get down. Before you know it, an entire armoured company is heading right for you, and your only option is to hide in the long grass. Speaking personally, I must have played this campaign a dozen times or more over the years, and still this sequence never fails to get the adrenaline pumping. Soldiers and vehicles pass just inches away from you, and the slightest wrong move will result in your violent end. The safest place to be is naturally right behind Macmillan, but even that isn't as foolproof as you might think. Come on. Come on! Just a little bit more. Oh god! Oh god! Oh come on! Oh... oh shit! No! Fuck! No! It is an utterly thrilling encounter, as for the first time in the game, your enemies inspired genuine fear. This was only possible because of the work Alavi put in to reprogram the game's AI. Previously, the soldiers would just turn aggressive as soon as you wander into their line of sight. For the sequence to work, they had to be able to walk right up to you without attacking. In the PC Gamer interview, Alavi said, "In a perfect world, I would be an expert systems programmer as well as a designer, but my two options were to either describe my design goals to our AI programmer, who was swamped and wouldn't have had the time to give me all of my features, or to write it myself and deal with the consequences of inexperience. I chose the latter. Anyone who's seen the code internally knows it's garbage, but to the end user it did exactly what I wanted it to do, and I didn't have to compromise on the feel of the gameplay." By choosing not to compromise, Alavi delivered us the most nail-biting moment in the whole game. Thankfully, afterwards you get some respite from the tension, once the company passes over you. You get to feel like a badass again as both you and Macmillan pick off targets together. The AI character of Macmillan deserves praise as well. Again, if you look at other shooters with AI companions, they tend to insist on a certain course of action, and the game won't continue or even fail when you don't comply with their commands, Battlefield 3 being a case in point. Macmillan is different in that he presents you with options and allows you to make your own choice, even when he does give you an order, such as this moment here.
Stay back. Stay low. He's mine.
Oi, Susie!
That's how it's done. Let's go.
You can still choose to disobey it, and he will just carry on regardless. If you had tried to do this in Battlefield 3, the game would undoubtedly have killed you, and forced to reload, since you didn't watch this oh-so-important moment of action. The ability to improvise makes us feel like contributors to the action, instead of just viewers who press a button occasionally. An important distinction that unfortunately subsequent Call of Duty games seem to have forgotten. Returning to All Ghillied Up, we come to the level's second set-piece moment of thrilling action stealth. It's a different affair from the first encounter, when you had to be as still as possible. This time you have to do the exact opposite and run as fast as you can without hesitation. Even a slight delay in your run will result in you being spotted. It's a glorious sequence that turns the normal act of staying unseen on its head. We're so used to slowly and quietly sneaking around in stealth games that being told to do the exact opposite in order to remain out of sight feels uniquely exciting. The use of action music is also perfectly timed to make you feel like Tom Cruise in one of his many, many running sequences. Yes, it is a linear sequence, but it's also outstandingly well crafted. It feels so daring, sprinting to stay unseen, crawling around underneath trucks while enemies pass by just a couple of feet away, completely oblivious, blissfully unaware. They have no idea. They could probably see you if they wanted, but who ever thinks to check underneath a truck? This is stealth with aggression. Once you're past that, the rest of the level is a more sedentary affair. There's a single guard to snipe and a wild dog to leave alone, unless you want to tangle with his friends, which you really, really don't.
That doesn't sound good.
After that, there's a brief traverse through an abandoned tower block. This last part is just for atmospheric purposes, as Macmillan briefly talks about the city you're travelling through, Pripyat. Leaving the building, you and Macmillan head towards another tower block with a large sign from where you will conduct your assassination in the next mission and the level ends. Incidentally, this is a real city, which was completely abandoned after the Chernobyl nuclear disaster in the mid-80s. Although whether it has since been used for secret arms deals in the years since, I can't say for sure. So that was All Ghillied Up. A mashup of stealth and shooter mechanics only possible due to the willingness of its level designer to go beyond his remit and reprogram the game's AI so that it would do what he needed it to do, despite the man having no experience in that area. It's worth mentioning, with a touch of melancholy, that this kind of experimentation with other disciplines may no longer be possible in AAA games anymore. PC Gamer stated in the interview with Alavi that the original Call of Duty had a development staff of no more than 30 people, whereas Black Ops 3 was the work of around 400. Alavi himself has said that due to the complexity of making games today, he now only specialises in designing and scripting cinematic gameplay. He himself no longer works on Call of Duty, having moved on to Respawn Entertainment. Still, however, the Call of Duty juggernaut rumbles on, getting increasingly sillier with each new sci-fi flavoured iteration, which is perhaps why Activision want to bring back the Modern Warfare campaign in a shiny new remastered version. The campaign will be included as an optional extra in the latest title, Infinite War, maybe to remind players of when COD's single-player experience was the best in the business, or perhaps to introduce a classic campaign to a new generation. Or maybe it's just to wring as much cash as they can out of it, since they know that Call of Duty's crown has lost some of its luster recently. I don't know. It's debatable whether Call of Duty will, or even can, produce a more immersive and electrifying experience than Modern Warfare's campaign. The series feels a bit fatigued now, but even if it doesn't, we'll still always have All Ghillied Up.